Hi again, this is Chris Rolle for the Click Media Group, and you are now in the Roll Report. And for our first agenda for the day, we would like to go take it to a biblical standpoint. We'd like to take it back in the time of the biblical prophets, of the biblical era when we had a man called Jesus of Nazareth walking the earth, and this some 2,000 plus years ago. Now, most of our Christian viewers and sponsors would attest that he was indeed a remarkable being. He might have been described as not only the Son of God, but many Christian parishioners and scholars like to look at him or view him as the Christ or the God. Actually, not just a Son of God, but the real God, the creator of the universe, heaven and earth, humanity, and all there that dwell in the earth. Now, there are different schools of thought that view Jesus as just a man, a prophet, born of human himself, flesh, bone, and blood. But then again, we have another school that say that yes, he was the man. Jesus was indeed like you and I and every other human being. He bled, he ate, he drank, he slept. But he had a spirit in him that were the spirit of something that is greater than human or humanity. It was indeed the essence of God that dwelt in his spirit, giving him that strength, that ability to do all amazing things that he did. But there is this third school of thought that says that yes, not only was Jesus the man, the myth, the legend, but he was also God in flesh. This is where we get our cross communications or understanding of this biblical person. Who was Jesus? Who was this man? Who was this myth? Who was this God? Jesus himself, they said, was born of a virgin, and this means that Mary was not touched by a living man. She was, I don't know, maybe artificially inseminated by the Spirit of God. If so, this is the analogy I would use to bring a clear understanding of what actually went down. It is said that an angel from God came to her and told her that the Lord has favored her among all other women, and that she would bore a son, and they would call his name Emmanuel, and he would be the Savior for the world. And this son she would be born or conceived would come from the Spirit of God, would be in essence the Son of God. Now, in our modern day thinking, we would think that yes, there was an artificial insemination process going on where God may have introduce, or because he is the creator, create sperms to be placed in her, to born with her egg from an ovary to induce a pregnancy. But whatever the circumstances were, she gave birth to a child that was like every ordinary child, except for one few minor details that they inadvertently left out, clever or not. But details like that is very crucial in trying to get to a real understanding, objective understanding, instead of introducing your conceptions and perceptions of how the real details went. We would like to have real, understandable, tangible facts that these details were as they were, or like we would think they may have been mythical stories or folklore stories that were passed down from generation to generation. And if you know how the folklore stories are passed down through this generation of grapevine generation, it becomes even bigger, fantastic, and greater with every passing generation. Here we are. We have Jesus coming from a wilderness experience where he was away for a long 18 years from the biblical records. 18 years he had no record, there were no idea, there were no tangible evidence to support anything that he was a teacher or scholar or a worker or anything. He just popped up after 18 years later to be baptized by his cousin John the Baptist, who was indeed another biblical figure of high importance in the Christian arena. This is the figure that is the forebearer, or person who would announce the importance of someone coming. And that important person that he did announce was supposed to be the Son of God. And Jesus of Nazareth came in and fitted that bill very nicely and very neatly. And it is said that when John the Baptist had baptized Jesus of Nazareth, there was a sign from God in the personification of a dove descending, I should say, from heaven or from the skies, and landing upon the head of Jesus of Nazareth. And there was a voice coming from heaven or the skies and proclaiming that this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. And the characters at that time, or the writer even at that time, for these books made reference to say, or speculations to say, that voice was indeed the voice of God, proclaiming Jesus, Son of Nazareth, as his begotten child. How true or not, we can only say it is a bit folklorish. Like every story from generation, it becomes grander and grander and grander. Whether it was rumbling of thunder and flashes of lightning that may have made an avaricious sight, or something that it was hallucinative, if at best, but something that could have been characterized as the appearance of a dove coming from heaven, all white and shiny, bright and lit it, and the voice of a God or a being ascending or descending and being uttered from the skies. Whether or not it was true of it, but it is relevant in this story. Here we have some evidence that yes, it was not only an angel before this child had been born that said God would send a son, and you, woman Mary, would be the vessel for which that son should be manifested through. Here we have again God himself proclaiming Jesus the Christ, the child from Nazareth, as his only begotten son. Now, this was all the evidence that the crowd around about needed before they started to leave and abandon their John the Baptist figure and started to follow or become disciples of this Christ-like figure in the personification of Jesus or Yahshua. Depends on what school of thought you are coming from. But herein we have tangible proof that could be speculative, objectionable, but in essence it's still a eyewitness account or eyewitnesses. Until next time, this is Chris Rolle for the Click Media Group, and you were in the World Report.